I'm gonna tell you straight up, man, I'm a broken man. Jesus Christ, just like, he came in and he just broke me and just changed my heart. And I'm gonna just give you a little bit about my background. Before I read it, I want to give you guys a verse that kind of really spoke to me last night when I was going through Romans. It's Romans 8. It says, "Those who are dominated by sinful nature think about sinful things, but those who are controlled by the Holy Spirit think about things that please the Spirit. So let your sinful nature control your mind, leads to death, but let the Spirit control your mind, leads to life and peace." This right here is my life. What God's done in my life. I grew up as a pastor's kid, and I didn't want nothing to do with church my whole life. I was over it. My brothers, they came out of the skinhead punk movement in the 80s. I grew up a skateboarder, so obviously that went along with the punk movement. And my whole life I just drew away from church, didn't want nothing to do with it. Got into looking at, remember I came up on a bag of, XXX porn magazines when I was in first grade, and that kind of sparked that whole lust, sex thing in my life. And then got into smoking cigarettes by second grade, and by my freshman year, I was smoking weed and drinking, and 4 months after that, I was using coke and got into acid and shrooms and everything else that went along with that. By my sophomore year, dropped out of high school, I was selling acid and weed and coke, and just trying to I loved to skate, party, and I was doing a lot of parties in high school. They're like acid parties with nitrous tanks. You show up, you drop acid, and it was like a lot of the different surrounding cities were coming there. So we just had this gift of throwing parties, and which later on you'll see what I'm doing with parties now. But I just from there I just wanted to. I didn't want nothing to do with the world, the church. I just wanted to see what the world had to offer. So I ended up dating some chick, and I was dating her after high school, I was dating her for like 3.5 years, and we had a couple abortions, and finally, like when the third one came around, when I got her pregnant again, I was already dating for like 3.5 years, I decided that I would marry her because I was in love with her, and we went to the doctors and saw the heartbeat and the whole kit, and went home, and about 2 weeks later, she called me up and said, "I'm too young. I want to abort this kid." And I was just like, "If you abort this kid this time, like, I'm leaving you because I don't know what's gonna happen later on in life." So she decided, one day I'm gonna come home, she's gonna be gone with the kids, and half my money and everything else. So I just told her, I said, "I'm gonna leave you if you do it." She decided she was too young. She went and got the abortion. I left her. At that point in time, I remember being in my room, and I'm not like, I don't cry. I mean, the crying is like a new thing since I found Christ. But I remember that time in my life, I remember being on my hands and knees in my room, and I was just pissed off, and I was just threw my middle fingers up to God, and I was like, "F you, I don't want nothing to do with you. I hate you, look what you've done to me, I can't believe you would do this to me." And this is someone that's drinking every single night, partying like an animal, and I said, "How can you do this to me?" So at that time, I basically said, "F God," and I said, "I'm going to take everything in from this life, sex, drugs, money, fame, I'm going to go for it." And about a couple months after that, I hooked up with Chad Muska from Shorty Skateboards, which, if you play Tony Hawk Pro Skater, he's been in that since the beginning. He was the biggest thing in skateboarding at the time, and he brought me in, and they started this company called Circle Footwear. It's a skateboard footwear brand. So he hired me to come in and do all the music promotions, because I was actually doing a lot of concerts after high school, which are more mainstream, like big concerts. So he brought me in, and right at that time, my life took off. It was like, dude, I was traveling 9 months out of the year, going to Playboy Mansion parties, hooking up with Playmates, Maximum girls, hitting every country, 5-star hotels, business class tickets. My goal was to sleep with the hottest chick in every country, whatever club we go and we do demos, then we go to the after party, girls be waiting for us, snorting coke, drinking booze, eating Xanax to go to sleep so I can wake up and feel halfway normal. I don't get all feel like I'm coming apart at the seams. If you guys party on hard drugs, any of you guys here, you guys know what I'm talking about. And I just lived this lifestyle for many years, and you know, in short, all my friends, you know, happened to become, you know, were drug dealers that from LA to San Diego. So every club, everything was on lock. Drugs were on lock. Most of them were free, and if not, cost. So having a ball of coke in my pocket at any time on the weekends is very common with Xanax. And you know, from there, I got into, you know, hanging out with a lot of strippers and porn stars and that whole kit. And it was just my life. I was just taking everything in, man. I was empty. I had a hole in my heart, and I wanted to fill it with drugs, sex, and money. And that's it. I bought a couple houses, got, you know, motorcycles, cars. Thought all this stuff would make me happy. Nothing made me happy. The only thing that happened is I kept going deeper and deeper with drugs. So from all the drugs that I was using when I was young, I started reverting back to using those drugs again because I was just more of a cokehead and drinking beer. But later on, as I pursued, you know, as I was working with Circuit for 3 years, then I started eating mushrooms again, taking acid again, started taking ecstasy again, and then it was just at a point with GHB, and I didn't, dude, a normal night for me, when I'd be out, I'd be mixing like 3 drugs. I'd be hitting the coke, the GHB, and the booze, and then wrapping it up with Xanax at the end of the night. And it was just common to use that many drugs, and my life was just getting dark. And I ended up, one story is that my friend dropped off 40 hits of ecstasy at my house on like Labor Day weekend. I ended up eating 15 hits of ecstasy throughout the day. Because see, as you can see, I didn't care. I was not scared of nothing. I was just a freaking psycho. And I ate 15 hits of ecstasy that day, and I was snorting coke all day, and obviously drinking all day. Well, I went to bed that night, passed out, woke up, went to work like no problem, because I'm a professional drug and alcoholic. I'm used to doing this. So, you know, I mean, I was the team manager. My job was to manage 15 guys. I was the last one to sleep and the first one up in the morning, getting everyone on their planes while I'm partying like an animal, right? I was a pro at this. And if you party like that, I don't know, you become a pro somehow, like your body gets immune to it. But that next day, I went to bed that night, woke up, went to work, but then following night when I went to bed, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was being pulled into my bed, I was being choked, and I seen this black shadow, this like silhouette of this like, I couldn't make out the details. It just had a big head and it was hunched over with big arms and big hands, and it jumped across the room like boom, boom, 3 times, and then 3 more times that and it disappeared, and then I could breathe again. And it came back 3 times that night. I never called out on Jesus because I was so anti, I didn't want nothing to do with God. I remember when I was young, my dad told me this verse in Revelation that said, if you're not hot or cold, you're lukewarm, God will spit you out of his mouth. So me, I never wanted to be one of those guys like, when I was in trouble, call out to God and then live like hell. It's like, in the skateboard industry, we call those guys posers. I never wanted to be a poser. I never wanted to be a compromiser. I was like, I'm on a highway to hell. I'm rolling with the devil. This is it. I've given my life to him. I don't want to be with Jesus. So I didn't call out to him. It disappeared. I woke up the next morning and my friend called me, the other guy that ate all the ecstasy with. He said that he woke up that next morning, and he said, or he woke up that night and he said that he was being pulled into his bed from the side. He felt something was laying next to him and pulled himself from the side. And he saw this like black creature walk out with long hair out of his closet along his bed. And he came back to his room 3 times as well. So then I told him my story, and I didn't tell him it was like fallen angels or anything like that because I don't talk about God with my friends. Well, it turns out that guy ended up giving his life to God 3 years later. He's a pastor at our church now. And yeah, so he called me up and he's like, I gave my life to God, this and that. I'm like, that's cool for you, dude. Do your thing. You know, I'm still doing my thing. And I pursued living the way I was living, ended up ODing, and came out of it. All my friends were dying from heroin and Oxycontin. And go figure, my friend ended up showing up with heroin at my house. So at this point, I was using every drug except for heroin. My friend shows up with some heroin, says, hey, if you smoke it, it's like getting stoned. So I'm like, why not? You know, I don't care. I mean, I've done everything else. So I start smoking heroin. Next thing you know, I'm like, what happens if we shoot this? So I got into shooting heroin, shooting coke, and then mixing the two, and with everything you get, with all the other drugs as well. And my life got really, really dark for probably about 3 years. I didn't care about life. I was just going through the cycle. It was just a habit. Go out, drink, everything had to do with alcohol. I was making money, so from the outside, my friends were like, dude, Ryan, you got it all together, dude. You've been to every country. You're traveling 9 months out of the year. You know, you got your house, your cars. Like, you're like, from the world's eyes, you're doing pretty dang good. But inside, I was a miserable wreck, dude. I was empty, man. Empty, man. I could not sleep with enough girls. I could not, my sexual frustration, my lust, all that stuff, my porn, all that was just just eating at me. I just had to have it. The alcohol I had to have, the drugs, nothing. I couldn't get no satisfaction. I could not get no satisfaction. So we ended up doing a tour through Europe, and then we went through South America. Well, South America is where cocaine comes from, Colombia. So we get down to Mexico City. I start balling balls of coke, and I do it all the way for 7 days straight with Xanax and booze till I get to Panama City. I get to Panama City, and as soon as I go sober for the first time in a month and a half, I'm sitting in my hotel room in Panama, and I'm like, God, I'm like, if you're real, man, I need you to, I don't want this life no more. I've been doing this for 10 years. I got everything I could possibly want. I've done everything I've ever wanted to do 100 times. I'm like, you got to show up and show you're real. Like, I went to church. I didn't listen. Like, I know the hits, like the Red Sea open, and the Jesus died on the cross. But I don't have no relationship. I've never even read the Bible. I'm like, if you're real, you got to show up and show me you're real. So I just said a prayer. I'm like, God, forgive me for my sins. Come into my life.
Preach, Ryan. Come on.
Go, bro.
I did it too, Ryan. Come on.
So I said, God, just come into my life. Change me, man, because what am I? I suck. Like, I'm nothing, God. Change me and prove you're real. Come into my life. I said that. I went to bed that night. I woke up the next morning. I remember they had these Gideon Bibles in the hotel rooms. They're everywhere. So I grabbed the Bible. I stole it from the hotel. I put it in my bag. Jumped on the plane, and I read that thing for 6 hours straight, from LAX Panama City to LAX.
Praise God.
And when I landed, I had this peace in my life that I've never had in my whole life. I just felt this peace now, looking back, that feeling. And I said, all right, well, you know, I'm coming off drugs and I feel pretty good. And I went home that night, went to bed. I'm like, I'm gonna go to rehab. I gotta figure out what's going on. I gotta get my life clean and figure out the next step. Woke up the next morning. When I woke up the next morning, I heard this song singing through my head. This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in Him. And it kept repeating over and over and over. It's this small, still voice, and I was tripping. I was like going out to smoke a cigarette, and I was like, what the heck? So I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, I woke up this morning. I gave my life to God. I got strung out on drugs. I'm like, I got to go to rehab. When I woke up this morning, I heard this voice singing through my head. Like, I haven't heard that since I was in first grade in Sunday school from this song. He's like, Ryan, that's the Holy Spirit. And dude, at that time, I'm like, dude, God is real. This is the real deal. I'm a nutman. I'm an idiot. Like, I need something crazy like that to happen for me to it even make sense to me. So I said, all right, God, you're real. I'm gonna get a Bible and I'm gonna figure out what's up with this whole thing. So I went to my job. I said, dude, I'm going to rehab. I'm strung out. You know, and they're like, I've been there since the circus started back in '98, and we launched in '99. I've been there from the beginning. I put every team right on that team. Been there, helped build that team. So they're like, you go to this rehab, get clean, do what you gotta do, come back and work with us. So I'm like, cool. So I leave, I go up to my dad's office, I go to the bookstore and I get a Bible. It was the Bible, the Gideon Bible, I left it on the plate, but it's a King James version, and thee, thou, and I was like, what? I'm coming off drugs? I'm like, poem. So I got a New Living Translation Bible, you know, I'm not that good at reading, so I just got that, different language, and started reading it, and I just started burning through Bible studies, and I was like, okay, trying to figure out where rehab I was going to go to, and I was listening to Chuck Smith. I was reading through my Bible, went to church that night, went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, Felt all right. I was like, all right. Read my Bible, do some more Chuck Smith CDs, and went to church again. And after the third day, I was like, dude, I'm not even like craving anything. Like God delivered me radically from heroin, cocaine, Xanax. From a simple prayer, and like the other pastor was saying earlier today, some people he takes it right away. Some people it's a process. And like for me, I'm a single man. Okay, I was having sex all the time. Now I'm a Christian not having sex. I'm like, what? Like I don't even understand that. So I start looking at porn. So I'm like going through porn for the first 6 months of my walk, and I'm reading the Bible. All of a sudden I stumble across this verse in Matthew: "Deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me." I was like, what? That's hardcore right there. So I started reading it, and then I read through it. Okay, well, deny yourself. And in Luke it says, deny yourself from your selfish ways. Your selfish ways is that stuff that your body craves, your flesh, that porn, that sex, the drugs, the hate, all that crap in your life that your body wants, the fighting and all that stuff. You got to deny yourself from that. You got to fight against it. Pick up your cross. When Jesus Christ was in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he was like, Father, I don't want to go to the cross. I don't want to go die for these sins. I don't want to go get beat. I don't want to get punched. I don't want to get spit on, crucified, murdered. I don't want to go do that. That's painful. But he's like, it's not my will. It's your will be done. And that's like us. We have to deny ourselves. We have to pick up our cross daily and follow Jesus. Like, we don't want to do it. Like, me, I want to go sleep with chicks. I want to go look at porn. I want to get drunk. I want to snort coke. But since Christ changed my life, I fight against that. And the way we fight